At the end of 2007, a couple of months after I'd had throat cancer surgery at Parkland Hospital, I decided to move, and I found a cozy little carriage house on Swiss Avenue in Dallas, thinking it would be a good place to heal. I began the Swiss Avenue project in 2009, around 18 months or so after the surgery. By then, I was at a point where my physical therapy had ended, and I'd stopped feeling sorry for myself. I wanted to get out, get some exercise, and build the stamina and strength I needed for getting my life back on track. You know, as an artist and photographer, I need a lot of visual stimulation. But at that point, I couldn't walk fast enough to change the scenery quickly. So I decided to do what comes naturally for me and bring along my point-and-shoot camera to photograph things of interest on my walk. If I couldn't change the subject quickly, I thought, what the hell, I'll just hyper-focus and slow down the process. My ADD comes in handy sometimes. Pretty soon I had a sizable collection of images, and many of them I thought were pretty good. After only a couple of weeks, I looked at them on my computer. By then, I think I had a couple thousand photos. And it dawned on me that I had more than just a collection of images. I had something extraordinary. It was then that I made a decision to go big or go home, as they say. That's when I brought out the big guns, my Canon 5D Mark II at the time, and a couple of high-end lenses and a big heavy tripod. I'd walk the length of Swiss Avenue, which is 2 7/8 miles from the edge of downtown to La Vista Drive, so 5 3/4 miles round trip. And I'd do that in a period of 2 days. And since I lived roughly in the middle, I'd go up the street and back one day and down the street and back the next. It's actually still a pretty good walk. I'd stop at every house or business, and depending on the composition of the scene that I saw before me, I'd take individual images, but also I took a lot of big panoramas. My intention was to shoot only what I could see from the sidewalk or from the street near the curb. The last thing I wanted was to get a bad rep by trespassing. It's a group of very tightly knit communities, each section of the street. Unless a homeowner invited me closer, and there were a few, I stuck to the sidewalk, and I still got some great shots. After a few months, I began to include events on Swiss Avenue, everything from Halloween, which is one of the biggest neighborhood celebrations in the country, to the annual Mother's Day home tour. That was a real treat for me because after shooting the outside of these homes for so long, I finally had entree to see and photograph the interiors. I finally stopped shooting after about 2.5 years or so. I was itching to rebuild my business, my life, and get on with things. I processed many photographs, but found that I simply couldn't devote that much time to a project whose greatest value I will never see. 100 years from now, it'll probably be an invaluable resource for Dallas historians. But now, realistically, I may sell a few prints to homeowners on Swiss, but I really have no commercial expectations beyond that for the prints. Maybe there's a possibility of a book in my next lifetime. Nonetheless, I have 2 goals that I'd like to accomplish with the Swiss Avenue project. First, I want to finish processing the images, select several from the thousands of final photographs, and mount a one-man show. And second, I want to find a home for the final prints, the digital files, my notes, and maybe a computer with a hard drive so the digital files can be read years from now. It's a subject that doesn't get much discussion when we talk about archiving digital photos, but it's certainly something I'd want to prepare for. The Swiss Avenue project has been a labor of love from beginning to end, and I hope that people can see it for what it is. With all the construction going on and so many houses for sale these days, change is happening right before our eyes. It just happens so slowly that it's hard to see. Because it crossed Swiss Avenue, actually cutting it in two, I shot the opening of the Dart Green Line and even had a chance to photograph the Dart board and its chairman under the statue of the Walking Man by Brad Oldham and Brandon Oldenburg. I actually got all 5 of the board members to pose just like the 38-foot tall statue towering directly over them. It was really kind of fun to do, to ask these powerful people to strike a silly pose standing under the sculpture they'd commissioned. I want people to enjoy the images, knowing that I've captured what the place looked like for a couple of years in the early 21st century as I walked the sidewalks of Swiss Avenue.